welcome to the Men Don't Talk podcast. A big shout out to our sponsors, Loved Ones Forever. I would like you to share, subscribe, share. This podcast is called Men Don't Talk because men don't talk. Well, some of us do. I would like to introduce my friend Craig, and my name is Reggie.
Hi, Reggie.
Yeah, and I'd like to introduce my friend Craig. And he's just come along to talk about kind of his experience with Men Don't Talk. Maybe we can start from the beginning. Like, where was you born?
So originally, well, I suppose it could be a little bit of I'd say Peckham, but I was really raised in Lewisham, kind of all about. So my nan and granddad was in Peckham Ray, but my house was all in the Lewisham borough. So, for example, New Cross, just down the road, Brockley, Forest Hill. But I've also done geographicals, which you might get into a bit later. But Lewisham borough has been my residence.
So, what type of upbringing you
had? A bit all over, really. You know, there's been good parts, there's been bad parts. I wouldn't say I was overly rich, but I weren't overly poor. There was times when I have been spoiled, given what I've needed. And then there's also been times where I've needed to go out and get what I've needed. You know what I mean? But it started off kind of loving. I was raised just by my mum. So I had my nan and granddad as an influence. And we was kind of separated from the extended family, cousins and aunties and stuff like that. So it was mainly just me and my mum, and my nan would take me out, because I'm 33, let me just say, so I kind of grew up with a kind of old school methods, where you'd go out and play with sticks and stuff like that, basically. So I had trips to zoos and stuff like that at a young age, and then it started to go downhill a little.
So the only man in your life was your grandfather?
Yeah, for a long period of time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Obviously, it affected you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really about colour, because obviously this is about men don't talk, right? So, but I'm mixed race, so I've automatically kind of grown up with a confusion, right? My mum is white, and my dad I've learned about recently, but I didn't know what half of me was. So not having a male role model around me apart from my granddad, it was well, I'll be honest, at a young age it didn't really matter. I didn't really notice it. But when I got to kind of just before teenage years, it started to affect me when I seen other kids with their dads and that sort of stuff, because as I said, I think up until about the age of 9, me and my mum had a loving relationship,
So when did you feel like you were searching for identity?
To be honest, I think subconsciously or without even knowing, it was from young. I got told a story. I was about 4 years old and someone called me a cheeky little monkey. And I went off. I don't know, they basically told me I had a mental breakdown. I'm not a monkey, So I don't really know if that was to do with like...
only you'll find out where that stuff comes from.
Yeah.
Obviously growing up, we're crying out for interest.
Yeah.
And I know full well that I come from a family of girls, and you know what, I kind of I did remember some good times with my dad, and but the thing is, I always checked on other influences, and I didn't, I suffer from the disease of addiction, so I always felt, even though I could have been in a room with 100 people, I would have been on my own, and I kind of for me, I felt isolated, and I was searching for identity, because I didn't know who I was, and I get that from when you said that, it's like forever searching. But, I think for a man, it's not love, it's guidance.
Yeah.
Do you know
what? I think you might have hit the money on the head there, basically, because I was raised by my mum. So I guess in society, they say that women are the majority of the caregivers.
Nurturers.
So kind of what I had with my mum was, the laying down, the hugging, the holding of the hands, the kissing. I can't really speak about what my dad would have been like because he wasn't there then, but so I kind of grew up, I'd say kind of soft, that's the way I'd kind of put it, right? Which gave me a little bit of confusions later on in life, but Yeah, I agree with that statement. I was searching for love when really what I was searching for was guidance. So I'd admit this basically is one thing that I had a problem with, right? Men going toilet. My mom couldn't teach me how to go toilet, right? She didn't know how, she didn't tell me to pull the foreskin back and how that can create bacteria and problems within the penis. And I had problems because I never had no one there at a young age to show me how to be a man. No disrespect to my mom, but she didn't have those tools, right? So
I've heard that happen in some cases with women teaching their daughters that have grown up without guidance. So I think a lot of, that life stuff is about guidance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like really hard. I mean, did you blame your father for your misfortunes?
yeah,
Because when we're kids, we're growing up, right? And there's certain things, isn't there?
yeah. So yeah, 100%. I did blame my dad. Because I didn't know no better, right? I didn't know his reasons, whether they was valid or not. And so there was one time I was walking down the road and my mum was like, "There's your dad." And I kicked off at her. I was like, "Why didn't you tell me? I always wanted to meet him." But I said to myself, if I met my dad, I'm either going to punch him in the face or I'm going to ask him for all the money he owes me for the Christmases and birthdays he missed, or I'm just going to try and get that love that I never had. It was always kind of between those three options, and we'll get into it maybe a little bit later on of when I actually did meet my dad and how it actually went down.
Because in some ways, it's like blaming someone that you don't know the true circumstance. Because some cases you never get the truth because it's so painful. Because if someone tells you the truth, it's going to come into the fact that why did your dad leave? I had situations of abandonment which I've kind of dealt with. Did you feel abandoned?
I think abandoned is someone who was there and then left, so I never had him. So I think it might have been more rejection.
Yeah, okay.
But I was just about to say something when you said it. I can't remember, but it might come to me a little bit later. But yeah, I think it was more rejection. That he never wanted me, because he was never there to leave. So.
I suppose if you didn't know the full story.
Oh, sorry, that's what I was gonna say. So I was always looking at it from my perspective, what I wanted, what I needed. So I think when I think like that, it's always going to be negative because it's kind of self-obsessed, It's about my needs, what I want, and I'm not thinking about the other person, what their life is like, and how things in life are going to create problems, right? I'm not going to say I think it's okay to not be in your kids' lives, but as I've grown and I'm also a recovering addict, this program has taught me to have empathy and understanding, because if I didn't, I just had resentments and anger, and the majority of my thoughts towards my dad was I hate him.
It's hard to sort of like kind of project that on someone that you didn't actually know. It's really difficult. Kind of like blaming, and there's certain things that like even when I was growing up, and my father, and I thought myself, when I come into recovery, like I really wanted, I don't know what I wanted, I don't know what I wanted from them, achievements, kind of watching your parents come to see you doing a sport, I get that, it must have been very soul destroying, because, did you experience anything like that?
My mum came to football matches and stuff like that, but with my dad, no. So I might as well just jump into it a little bit. I met my dad last year, I believe. I'm very bad with timescales, to be honest, but I met him just before I reached 1 year, so it was about a year ago, and he passed away, so he never got to see me when I was 18 months. But my two stepsisters, they came to a very well.
Sorry for his passing, that you never got a chance to. But the thing is, do you know what? You've come so far. You've come so far. You was very angry.
Yeah.
And I could understand that anger that you had inside you. And where did that anger take you?
Sure. Shell.
Tell me a bit about that. What was your first experience that now you can easily pinpoint where anger took you to jails, but kind of
So I think anger was the easiest emotion for me to recognize, right? Because I'll be honest, my history growing up was always a lot of violence. The people around me, the influences I had around me was from either the football thug era, potentially old school gangsters. Back in the day there was people that I think it's a bit different with society today, but so I was taught kind of men was men, you defend people. My mum was also a violent woman as well.
Right towards you?
Towards me and others, I'll be honest, yeah, I've seen my mum have loads of fights. Not just little slaps and stuff like that. My mum was a brawler. Um, so I think what that taught me was the violence was okay. And from my mum, it taught me that, you can still hurt the ones that you love, because my mum was meant to love me, and if she could treat me that way, then it made me kind of feel like it was okay. Kind of twisted, because I knew the emotions I still felt whilst I had it, but it was a mixed message of being raised, right? So it was quite hard, but the anger took me to what I've learned now was a defense mechanism, to keep myself safe, because I didn't want to feel those emotions of being sad or feeling vulnerable or even admitting that I was sad. So if my mum hit me back in the day, I'll say I was angry she hit me, but really and truthfully, I think I was sad.
Yeah, so what male figure did you go to, if any? Who did you have?
I didn't really have anybody. I kind of had someone around, but it's kind of a touchy subject. It's not that, it's kind of an area where it's not really for me at the moment in my life to kind of put out there to a world, but I had an influence in my life that was very loving, and it was also, it could be controlling as well. So I don't really feel like I want to put too much out there at the moment, but it was.
So what I'm trying to say, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but for me, my first experience of talking to men on the level was coming into recovery.
Yeah.
I get that, I get that loud and clear. And not to say that I never talked to anyone before, but it was full of hot air. It wasn't, it didn't go nowhere. There was no solution.
Yeah.
I talk to men today that are in recovery, and I get a solution, and I can go with that solution because I know that they've got no motive by giving me a suggestion or saying to me, maybe have a look at it like this. How do you feel? Do you get that today?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. And you've kind of just made me think that there was men throughout my life that tried to attach to me, tried to guide me along the right way.
Yeah, but you obviously got manipulated.
Got what?
You manipulated along the way. You got manipulated.
Yeah, no. So it was also with like school teachers, because my behaviour at school was a bit bad. So there was times where I was given the opportunity to talk, but I refused to. I held back. And now when I look at it, it's okay, right? Because my path is my path. But if I would have took those opportunities and spoken earlier, which is what I hope this podcast kind of does, especially for the younger generation, helps them to know that it is okay to talk. Like, it really is okay to talk, because
trust comes into it, though, doesn't
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, there was a lack of trust with who you was going to talk to. When you first started getting into trouble and kind of, and then going into the prison system. How old was you when you went into the prison system?
The first time I went into jail was 16, but I'd committed a few offences before that. The offence that I went into jail for, I actually committed when I was 14 and a bit.
So what, it took 2 years to go to trial?
I didn't even know I was on the run for a year and a half.
Okay.
I didn't even know.
So guidance, where's the guidance in there?
In that situation, there was no. All my guidance was to be out there on the streets, on the road, running away from home. I was in Plumstead, and went to go to the shops, and I was just surrounded by the police. I don't know how they knew where I was, because I never had a bank card. How they found out where I was, I assume it would have been from my mum,
So you just stop running,
Yeah, it also made me have a lack of trust, when really I think my perception of trust was warped, right? So I didn't trust the police because I thought they was after me, and that blinded me from seeing the fact that police can do help. Like they're out there, they are due to safety, but because I was in the groups of feeling like they was harassing a certain type of people out there, I was in this group of people, and my narrative was being controlled, right? So now I don't allow my narrative so much to be controlled by outside sources, because I'm traveling this journey on my own, and who I want to bring around me should be productive. But it takes a while to change, don't get me wrong. But I think if I had the thoughts I have now about trust, so I thought my mum had snitched on me because that was the language I was taught. When, as you just mentioned it could have been a form of care. But I didn't understand that because I didn't have these types of conversations.
Well, it's that tough love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough love.
It's tough love, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know? It's funny how you say that. It's because, you know, getting into trouble at a young age, and, you know, you know, where, I mean, I was doing crime at a young age, you know, and, you know, I look back at that now and I think myself, well, you know, I had every right to get caught, and I had friends of mine that was getting caught for nicking cars, and I never got caught, you know. So the thing is, I thought to myself, well, I never got caught. So, you know, one of my friends said to me once, he got a 9-year, 10-year sentence, and I went to go and see him, and he said, well, you're not really a criminal because you've never been caught. And I never been to jail. And I said, no, because I've never been caught. But it doesn't make me less of a criminal, you know, just that I wouldn't even call it smart, because majority of the time we commit a crime to feed some form of something. You know, a lot of us don't commit crime to eat, unless you're just nicking food. You know, we commit a crime because we want to buy drugs or fund some form of habit. You know, and you know, and this is what the thing about Men Don't Talk is, we kind of to get a dialogue going with someone and get some direction.
Yeah.
You know, so you was lack of direction.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you was full of blame. You didn't trust. Yeah, you know, we'll just break it down.
Yeah.
And so how old was you? You was 16 when you went to prison. And what was that like?
I ain't gonna lie, it was scary because I didn't really know much about the jail system. I thought I had my foot fully in the kind of activities out there, the kind of road life, but I didn't know. So my truth was, I was shitting myself, you know. I thought that the stuff happened that was in American jails happened over here and in young people's jails. But my truth was, I went in, and when they shut the door, someone had shouted out what they normally shout out in YOYs is, where are you from, what's your name, and what you in for? And I just said to him, I don't want to talk about it. You know, I flicked on the TV that I didn't know was going to be there, laid down in the bed, cried, because I got sentenced to 3 years. I didn't even know that I got offed. So I thought I was going to be doing the whole 3 years. Came out the next day, and this guy had attacked me. You know, literally got behind me, threw me into these little steel bars. The fight got broke up real quick, but I was in there for less than 24 hours, and that was my first experience, you know. So what did that teach me? I have to stand up for myself, you know. There's no backing down. I have to face things like front on, you know, fight with fire and all that kind of stuff. There was no chance for me to be vulnerable, and that was at a moment in my life where I was at a crossroads. I believe one of the first crossroads in my life where I could have gone to the devil or I could have gone to the good side, you know. And
what side did you go to?
I went to the devil.
You went to the devil?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It felt safe. It kept me safe.
So, going to the devil, yeah. Did you upgrade in criminality? Did you learn more about crime?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So you was indoctrinated into a different level of crime.
Yeah.
Or did you? What was your? It's probably hard to respond. What was your lesson out of that bit of jail time?
At the moment, the lessons were the things you spoke about, you know, connections, learning about bigger crimes, let's say, you know, meeting people that dealt with larger, more drugs, basically. I think it also taught me to isolate, and I was alone, you know, because I went from different wings to different wings having fights, you know, and I think I was only 6 wings in jail that I went to. So if you had a fight, they separate you, maybe try and move you onto a different landing, but you could still end up meeting. So it was just ridiculous, to be honest. It taught me to be on my own, basically, you know, and that no one would have my back. You know, only me, I have my own back. But then again, I still craved the attention, right? Because I knew that not everyone was going to be around for me, but I still craved it. So I still ended up getting involved with people trying to do things to earn stripes or love.
Who had your back?
No one.
No one.
Yeah.
It's a very lonely place, Craig.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it's a very lonely place, and you know, you come out of prison, and what do? Did you confront your mother? Did you turn around and say you?
I wouldn't.
Do you still love your mother? So
I had love for her, but she never visited. No, she never visited me, and that. She never visited.
And what was the crime? If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to say anything. Don't have to incriminate yourself, but.
Well, it's spent now. It was GBH Section 18.
GBH, so it's pretty severe.
Yeah. I didn't know this, but he was an off-duty police officer.
So you picked it.
I swear to God, I didn't.
It doesn't matter, any human being, does it?
Yeah.
Really?
But that's why. So originally they tried to get us on attempted murder, and the thing that annoyed me
Was it
about
joint enterprise?
it was joint enterprise. Yeah. The thing is, they tried to. There was 4 of my coldies, and my 3 of my coldies was over the age of 18, and I ended up getting a heavier sentence. Someone had snitched, got 12 months to 6, when the minimum for GBH should be 5
Turn
years.
QE on.
Yeah, and 2 of them got 2 years, do 1, and I ended up getting 3 years, do 18 months. Now, at the time of the offence, my co-defenders was all adults, but they saw me as the leader. And again, I don't really like to bring colour into it, but I was the only person of colour. It was all white.
Answer me this, though. You can answer it now. Was you the leader?
No, I threw the first punch.
You threw the first punch?
Yeah, I threw the first punch.
So, I mean, if you break that down for what it is, if you threw the first punch, like, kind of, you know, it doesn't matter what colour you are. You know, you are the instigator.
Instigator, not leader.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But the thing is, you know how that sounds, you know. And so what it is about breaking it down. Yeah. But the thing is, if you would have had a man around you that could level with you, reason with you.
So, sorry to cut you, that was kind of one of the first people that I looked at, because my mama told me that one of them was my cousin, you know, and I kind of looked up to him. You know, he was from Brixton. He said he had connections with the group PDC, which for me was...
was that a gang?
Yeah, it was a very well-known gang in South East London back in the days.
Yeah, so was that
Brixton? No, it was Poverty-Driven Children.
Poverty-Driven Children.
Yeah.
I'll pick some classic names.
Yeah, but it was a really big gang, and I thought that was my way into them, you know.
And that was family, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, you've always been steered, like, by the sound of things, into this kind of danger, really, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, you've been steered to danger. So after the sentence, you come out, you was 16, 18. Yeah. So you're a man. You're a man.
Yeah.
So a man that's grown up with no guidance, without someone to talk to. So what happened after?
I was in social services, and I got thrown straight into a semi-independence, which is basically you get given your own flat. Basically, you get given a key worker. But I had 6 months until I turned 18. So once I turned 18, they kind of just said, "On your way." Yeah, they gave me my own flat. I didn't know. Honestly, Reggie, I didn't know nothing. Didn't know how watching. Yeah, well, I knew how to wash up because I've been in prison. You know, keeping your stuff clean. But I'd give the guy my washing, laundry. So
you know how to do a dish with tuna.
Yeah.
And Jaffa cakes.
Yeah,
you know what they were. Yeah, so I mean, that must have been massive. Like, I remember when I was 19 and I had my first flat, and you know, I kind of liked it. You know, but the thing is, you know, it's you know, my dad was kind of there, but not kind of there. You know, he has been there, but not kind of there.
Yeah.
You know, do you know, sometimes when you hear about stories about, you know, guys have watched their mum get battered about by their father, and then their dad is sort of like got his problems, and you know, they end up, their mum gets away, and then the guy grows up and he ends up bashing his own missus up, you know, and kind of, you know, I think what a lot of things are about is drawing a line in the sand.
Yep.
You know, draw the line in the sand and kind of move forward. So you're 19, 20, you know, no kids by then.
Yeah. I had my first kid at 19.
You had first, I did first one at 19. I had my first one at 19. it was that was mind blowing.
Yeah.
You know, didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got pictures.
Yeah.
I look fucking young. I had 2 kids by the time I was 21. You know,
Yeah.
so 19. So you had your first kid at 19. What did you do with that responsibility?
Didn't.
You didn't.
No. So there was you know, it was a toxic relationship. We was both in care, so my partner at the time was in the mother and baby unit. You know, there was violence there. So she brought the kid to see me every now and again, but she had the majority responsibility. And I was still young, I was just living life. When she saw me, it was kind of like, so a part of it was, oh, I've got a kid, let me show the kid off. So I played a part-time dad, you know.
Sick and false pride, they call it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah,
Well,
it's like, I'll give you the defect. It's called sick and false pride. I've done a lot of it. Super dad.
yeah, I was for about 2-3 hours.
You know, I was a super dad. Well, look at me changing it nappy. There's a picture, I love that.
Okay.
So, I mean, really what you did was you done exactly the same as what your father did.
No disrespect to my dad, but I was there a bit more.
He was there a bit more. Well, at least he was there a bit more. You know, I'm not being flippant with
Yeah.
that statement.
No, that's fair.
You know, that's what I mean. I'm just looking for similarities in it, you know. Kind of what we talked about was drawing a line in the sand and saying, look, you know what, this has happened. So, you know, crime, gangs, direction, trust. Still, you still don't trust. You know, you rebelled against this.
You know, the funny thing is I'd say I didn't trust, but I trusted too quickly.
Well, trusted the wrong people.
Yeah, 100% I trusted the wrong.
Trust the wrong people.
Yeah, but I still go in there with some sort of trust, and I think that was because I was craving their attention. So I knew that I'd had my trust broken so many times, but because I was so needy inside from just being so broken inside that anybody that came into contact with me, I just wanted to hold on to them.
Yeah.
So I would automatically trust them, you know, to try and help them or get them to trust me.
Yeah.
You know, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that when I was first involved in criminality, and I used to talk to these guys that was around about my father's age, and they used to go, man, I wish I had a son like you. Do you know what? I was high on that. You know what I mean? Like, they deal with me, but their sons are fucking numpty. You know what I mean? And then their son would get the right because I'm there eating lobster and drinking LPR with their dad and giving all that shit. You know what I mean? It's fucking crap. You know, of ego, false pride and sick pride. You know, all that stuff. And yeah, it's like I understand that indoctrination into it, you know, and you know, it's not the life that I would want my children to have. You know, we can't create class for ourselves. We can only create it for our children. You know, yeah, you understand that, you know, yeah. So, you know, you grew up, you started growing up, or you thought you did.
Before.
Yeah, you thought you did, and you go back to prison again.
Yeah, I was in and out of prison for a little while for silly little offences, you know, also remanded because, you know, I felt like I was...
Victim?
No, I felt like because it was an off-duty police officer, I felt like I was targeted. So anytime I did anything, I got in touch with the police, you know, they'd always treat me a little bit more rougher than the rest of the guys around me once they found out my name, and searched me a little bit better or harder. And that kind of put me down, but also built me up. It gave me that ego as if I'm better than, because even though I didn't know he was a police officer at the time or off duty, I still bragged about that to my friends, you know, as if to give myself some stripes.
Ego.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So after 10 years, so let's move forward to probably, like, you know, our greatest stories is recovery. So how'd you get on with recovery? How'd you get there? You know, we talked about your experience, you know, and your strength. Where did that come from?
So I think I always had some sort of strength inside of me, but I might go into that a bit later. So I found a treatment center, and I didn't even know about any of the fellowships out there, and
You're right. If you want to plug their name, you can plug their name.
yeah,
You know, it's up to you if you want to plug.
yeah, I'll leave it out for now.
Yeah.
But I ended up going to a treatment center and finding out that I had an addiction. You know, I didn't go in there for any of those reasons. I went in there because after I had that first property, I didn't know how to keep it. I'd racked up so much debt that I'd made myself intentionally homeless. You know, I lost that property and no one else would ever house me. So I'd end up living with friends, families, girlfriends, and I needed somewhere to stay. And it had gotten to a point in my life where I just needed help, right?
There's a bit of connection there, don't there, really?
Yeah.
You know, like kind of didn't spend all that money on drugs and drink, spend all bills. Luckily, buddy to pay our rent bills.
Yeah, 100%.
You know that?
Yeah.
You know, it's fucking a hard pill to swallow, though, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I got into treatment, you know, I started to find out about all these things because I was in there for the wrong reasons, but I feel like it was the right time for me. You know, it was kind of one of them higher power moments where I was ready to learn. You know, because my way wasn't working. You know, everything I tried to do was ending with me hitting a brick wall. You know, it might work for so long, or it might be all right for a little while, and then all of a sudden, it would just plummet. So
Did your kink workers suggest you go into a treatment?
no, I never had a key worker then. When I touched 18, they released you when you're 21, right?
Yeah.
But from 18 to 21, they actually had no involvement with.
So you wasn't under the radar.
No, yeah. So when I went into treatment, I found it myself. Well, with the help of someone else, basically, and what was it? Yeah. So I started to hear things that I couldn't deny, right? You know, and started to meet a bunch of people that had been through what I'd been through, and that had found a new way to live. You know, and how to not use going through the problems that I have or going through the things I had, you know, because I didn't need a reason to use. The sun would come out, I'd go, yeah, the sun would come out, the rain would come out, I'm using, you know, life was good, I'm using, life was shit, I'm using.
If the cat looked to me funny, I'd jubes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know that? Yeah, and it kind of went like that all the way through.
Yeah.
So you met a load of people like you.
Yeah.
Like we all do when we first touch into recovery and we put our toes in there.
Yeah.
So did you stop straight away?
Yeah, because I was in a treatment centre, they flipping pissed.
They do 3 months. They do 3 months there, didn't they?
Or the one I went into was a 6 months.
Six
No, it was
That's
3 months to 6 months, but the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So I stayed in for a little bit longer, but then I left early. I left because of the ego, you know, and I've had 2 relapses, but I'm back almost 2 years now.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that really, really close. I mean, we've been in contact since that time, haven't we?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, now you got men don't talk. Now men do talk with you, they do. So it's really difficult because, you know what, we go into a fellowship or we go into that and we end up talking to another man, right? Yeah, and first of all, we think, fucking, you know, especially some of the people that help us for the work. And it's an inspiration, it's refreshing, it's kind of loving and caring that I never ever felt before. You know, how do you feel?
It's weird, right? You know, because I never had my dad around, so, you know, being able to say that I love a man always kind of felt gay to me, to be honest. And that's not being disrespectful, it's just, that's how it felt to me. And I have a sponsor today and I've managed to say to him I love him because he's helped me through some hard times.
I get that.
I have a problem with almost forgetting what the question is because I go off from my head because I have so much stuff that runs into my head. But yeah, it's just it is loving and caring in there, and I still fight against it, right? Because I have self-will, you know, and that means that I want to do things my way at my time, and you know, control issues, you know, like waking up when I want to wake up. It might sound silly, but I have to wake up now because I do now have kids that are present in my life. I'm a present father.
So there's another 2.
I have 2 that live with me.
The 2 that live with you.
Oh, I have 3.
And you got your other son as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've seen your family grow in the time that I've known you. You know, and I've seen you grow as a man. And I've seen you grow, and it's kind of it's a beautiful thing to see. You know, when they say don't leave until the magic happens, I don't want to leave. But the thing is, like the miracle and the magic is watching other people, you know, come along too with that, you know.
Okay.
So it's so now today, present day, you're doing what is suggested, is that right?
Yeah, to the best of my ability. I fall short, and I have to remember to not beat myself up
Yeah.
about it, because I have this thing that wants to strive for
Yeah.
perfection. But yeah,
We all have that,
person,
though, don't we?
yeah,
You know, perfection. You know, progress, not perfection. Is like kind of some of the cliche words that we use. You know, I explain it to some people, and you know, and what's your thing about today?
so
Do you talk to men?
yeah, I do.
I mean,
I do.
and when men come to you, what do you give them?
I give them somewhere to listen to. So one thing I do normally say to people is I give them sort of three options. When you ring my phone, tell me off the bat what you want from this phone call. Do you want somewhere to vent? That means basically, Craig, shut the fuck up and just listen. Would you like some suggestions back? Is this a conversation where we both just speak of our experience, right? Because I know that when I've picked up that phone call and I've had to fucking, it's felt like Thor's hammer to pick up that phone call, right? Let's not just think it's an easy thing to pick up that phone call and say, look, I'm going through some shit in life and I don't know what to do, right? Because as a man, I came from the background of men must provide, you know, work and all that sort of stuff, right? So what I'm doing is I'm breaking that method of thinking, right? Because some people can believe it's okay to be like that, and I do believe men should provide or whatever. You have to play your role, but putting myself in a box. If I put myself in a box, then I'm not going to learn anything outside that box, right? So if it stayed that men go out to work and cook and clean, if I didn't know how to do any of the housework, God forbid any of my baby mothers passed away and I was left with that son, how would I teach him how to put on a washing machine or wash dishes or you know, use a tumble dryer or whatever? Do you know what I mean? So that's why I believe that we should try these other things.
And what was your you talk about these skills that you know today, and you've picked them up along the way. Is that why? How have you picked these skills?
Well, I'll be honest, my mom kind of raised me to kind of know these things, so I learned how to cook from young. Not nothing extravagant, I'm not a 5-star chef, but, you know, I could cook from a little bit younger, but I think that had more to do with me being in the house on my own, right, and having to cook for myself. You know, it might have started out with beans on toast and then went into being able to cook pasta and tuna and, you know, maybe then doing mash. Occasionally, I'll be honest, I'm lazy still today, but that's just me being honest, yeah. You know, it's a struggle to get me to cook, but yeah. I can.
Yeah.
I just don't.
You know, you don't?
Yeah, not regularly.
Well, you know what? It's been fantastic talking to you, you know. And, you know, I'll give you 5 minutes to tell our audience out there kind of what men don't talk about and what we can do to change that, to break that narrative down. Yeah.
I think there's a stigma, right, with men being masculine. You know, men have to be this kind of sort of what I relate to being sort of a caveman bride. But for me, my experience, and this might not be for everybody's experience, but I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, which is a big thing. You know, I would act out in many different ways. But one of the biggest tools I've got today is speaking, you know, because it unclogs my brain. If my brain gets too clogged, I start going into feeling confused and I just erupt. So I relieve myself of as much baggage as I can to be able to do the other things that I can, like being present for my kids, being a partner, you know, even being able to come here and doing this today. Because if I was stuck in my own head, I could have come here in any kind of mindset or even walked out and, you know, possibly maybe made this podcast a little bit shorter or not go up. But what it is by me relieving all the stuff inside my head, I'm able to take in a lot more and be a lot more present. So I just urge people to find someone that they can talk to.
Talk to the right person.
Yeah, talk to the right person.
Right person you can trust. Because remember, we started the conversation out on trust, didn't we? So a man that had...
Well, I think trust has to be built, right?
Of course it does.
Yeah.
But now you can say that trust is a good thing.
Yeah.
100%. But beforehand, you never knew no trust. You know, and it's been fantastic to listen to you, Craig. You know, and thank you very much. I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Loved Ones Forever. And I'd like you to share, subscribe, get this out there. Thank you very much.